kama familia tumebaki tukidangana, tunasikia uchungu.
The tragic accident along the Malindi-Mombasa highway left 15 people dead and 14 nursing injuries. Eyewitnesses say the driver of the bus heading to Garissa was attempting to overtake when he reportedly lost control of the bus, leading to the fatal head-on collision. Those who spoke blamed an ongoing road construction that has been going on the road that has not been completed for months.
Mimi nataka contractor ambaye ako katika site hii ya kutengeneza hiyo barabara to be held responsible.
Kukando kumelimwa, kuna nafasi kubwa ambayo mtu hawezi kuhepa.
Watumalizie barabara, wasituletee ukokoro. Hatutaki watu wetu kufa.
Confirming the incident, Kilifi County Commissioner Kutso Olaka warned motorists operating on the highway to be extra careful. Sentiments echoed by the county commander Nelson Tait, who noted speeding has been a major contributor to the accident.
Wao waangalifu. Kama angekuwa waangalifu hatungekuwa na hii ajali ya leo.
Wakuwa waangalifu, wawaje overspeeding. Sababu kama ingekuwa hiyo pasa ingekuwa na speed, tunafikiria inge lose control ikuje konge hii minibus.
The bodies were taken to the Malindi Hospital morgue.
It's a great challenge on our part to handle such a big crowd. We are used to seeing 20, 50 people at a time. But right now we have, in my estimates, we have almost 1,000 people around, both at the casualty and also here at the mortuary.
In yet another grisly accident, one person died on the spot while 2 others are nursing serious injuries. This accident occurred in the afternoon along Nyamasare Road in Kisumu County. The driver of a truck that was transporting sugarcane from Nyamasare to Kibos Sugar Factory lost control of the vehicle that fell from the Kachok flyover onto 2 other vehicles parked beside the road. The driver died on the spot. Confirming the incident, Kisumu East Sub-County Commander James Musimi said the matter has been taken up by relevant authorities for further investigations.
We need to collaborate with the Kenya National Highway Authority to see how they can be able to consider redesigning or making improvements to avoid further accidents occurring.
Area residents, however, are pointing an accusing finger at the design of the flyover, which they say is a black spot.
Tunasema hii barabara itengenezwe, hii flyover tupate vile tunasaendeza. Inafanya sisi tusiendeze magari hivi tunaona hapa.
Tuko na huzuni sana vile tumepoteza watu wetu. Tunaomba serikali ishughulikie njia. Jujuzi ndo mtu wa pikipiki alianguka akakufa, haijamaliza hata wiki. Sasa leo tena accident nyingine.
The bodies were taken to the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital morgue. Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News.
In other news, the Ministry of Health has warned health facilities against hoarding the COVID-19 vaccine on the assumption that the second dose might delay, speaking after receiving over 20,000 COVID-19 testing kits worth 44 million shillings from Aga Khan University Hospital. Health Principal Secretary Susan Muchache says the ministry will deal firmly with any facility trying to disrupt the vaccination exercise. Let's take a look.
The Ministry of Health has received a major boost from Aga Khan University Hospital, which has donated over 20,000 COVID-19 testing kits, valued 44 million shillings to help in COVID-19 response. Health Principal Secretary Susan Mochache, while receiving the donations, read a riot act facilities that deliberately hold the COVID-19 vaccine on the assumption that the second dose of the vaccine might not be available.
Let me also take the opportunity to appeal to the facilities, the health facilities, not to hold the vaccine with the premise of assumption that there will be no second dose. I wish to assure all the facilities, both public and private, that the government will avail the second dose of AstraZeneca, and therefore, please use all the vaccines that we have distributed and not hold them in any way, because they are an important intervention in the fight against the battle.
Mochache further called on the frontline workers to take the jab, even as she noted that some have deliberately refused to be vaccinated, fearing the availability of the second dose as well as the efficacy of the vaccine.
I would wish to urge all health workers to come out and get the vaccine, because we are aware that certain pockets of health workers are still not sure whether they want to take the vaccine or not. I think looking at the mortality rates on people having COVID, really I would want to urge all the health workers and the frontline workers to come out and get the vaccine.
Aga Khan University Interim Chief Executive Officer Rashid Khalani said the partnership between the private sector and the Ministry of Health is critical in fighting the coronavirus pandemic.
The trust the German government has in our abilities to contribute in the fight in the COVID-19 pandemic. With your support, we have expanded our COVID-19 response.
German ambassador to Kenya, Garnet Gunter, was present, said our country will partner with Kenya in combating the pandemic.
We aim at ensuring a global and equitable access to vaccines, tests and treatments worldwide. Global cooperation and solidarity will be our only chance to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timothy Kipnusu for Channel 1 News.
County governments now claim their efforts to deal with coronavirus pandemic have been curtailed by the National Treasury. They accuse Treasury of delaying to disburse 85 billion shillings from December 2020 to March 2021, making it hard for them to continue offering services.
2 months to the end of 2020-2021 financial year, and county governments are accusing the National Treasury of delaying to disburse the county equitable share of revenue. 12 counties have not received 7.2 billion shillings for the month of December 2020. At least 78 billion shillings is yet to be disbursed to all 47 counties for the months of January, February and March.
7.2 billion shillings owed to 12 counties for the month of December. Those counties didn't have a happy Christmas. 26 billion shillings owed to 47 counties for the month of January. 26 billion shillings owed to 47 counties for the month of February. 26 billion Kenyan shillings owed to 47 counties for the month of March.
According to the governors, the 4-month delay has had an impact on counties' operations.
This delay, ladies and gentlemen, has continued to slow down timely response to COVID-19, and the other county operations have been impacted negatively. In this regard, the Council of Governors now strongly notifies the National Treasury that this inordinate 4-month delay may lead to other drastic actions, since negotiations seem not to be heeded.
The Council of Governors now want the monies disbursed in the next 1 week. Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
Now, on a separate matter, the Pharmacy and Poisons Board has downplayed fears of any fatalities resulting from the AstraZeneca vaccine being administered in the country now. The board says out of the 279 reported adverse effects of the vaccine, 272 were mild and were resolved within a short period. This comes as Kenya registered 18 fatalities resulting from COVID-19 complications, with 1,523 new infections being confirmed in the last 24 hours.
It was a claim that an expectant woman had died after receiving the AstraZeneca vaccine that ignited jitters among Kenyans. The Pharmacy and Poisons Board is now dismissing the claim, saying the report was made without undue investigation. The board says out of the 279 reported effects of the vaccine, 272 were mild and resolved within a short period of time. Additionally, all the 7 serious cases are still under investigation. The assurance from the Poison Board came as the country recorded another 1,523 new coronavirus cases from 7,423 samples tested in the last 24 hours, representing 20.5% positivity rate. Over the same period, the country recorded 18 deaths, taking the country's death toll to 2,276. As of Tuesday, 339,893 people had been vaccinated with the AstraZeneca vaccine. From this number, 99,084 are health workers, 27,945 security workers, 45,877 teachers, while 166,987 are members of the public aged 58 years and above. The Ministry of Health, in the meantime, says it has resolved challenges that had led to the disruption of the supply of ARV drugs in the country. The assurance coming even as the county governments lamented that hospitals in the devolved units were running out of ARVs mainly for children. While Kenyatta National Hospital has in the meantime scaled down surgical procedures that are elective in nature due to the shortage in oxygen supply. The hospital is only undertaking critical surgeries such as cancer-related operations and obstetrics operations. Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
Still on matters health, this year's World Health Day was marked amidst an urgent call for global collaboration to address inequalities and access to quality health care for all. According to the World Health Organization, the COVID-19 pandemic has presented the biggest challenge of providing healthcare services to the vulnerable in the society, challenging member countries to accelerate equitable access to COVID-19 technologies, invest in primary health care, as well as prioritize health and social protection for all.
Countries around the world continue to battle the devastating effects of the COVID-19 health crisis, which has exacerbated existing inequalities in health and welfare within and between countries. The ripple effect of the pandemic was top on the table during this year's celebrations to mark World Health Day. According to the World Health Organization, the COVID-19 pandemic has unearthed the inequalities in access to quality health care for all.
We have all been affected by COVID-19, both by the virus and by the measures countries have been needed to take to control and suppress it. But some have been affected more than others. And unfortunately, the pandemic has amplified many existing inequities.
To address this inequality, the World Health Organization has issued 5 calls for action which challenge member countries to accelerate equitable access to COVID-19 technologies between and within countries, invest in primary health care, prioritize health and social protection, build safe, healthy and inclusive neighborhoods, as well as strengthen data and health information systems.
We must tackle the social determinants of health, while also increasing investments in primary health care. And we must act beyond national borders and strengthen regional and global health security, including by working towards a new international treaty for pandemic preparedness and response.
But amidst this global clarion call, in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, a trip to the Mukuru Kwa Ruben slums brings you face to face with an unhealthy state of affairs. Residents here have been forced to endure the foul smell of sewage water which has been seeping into their houses.
Huku kukinyesha tunakuanga na shida sana, kunakuanga na mafuriko. Kukinyesha kitu ya kwanza hakuna kutoka nje. Tunashinda kwa nyumba, watoto hawaendi shule.
They have taken issue with the Nairobi Metropolitan Services for keeping a blind eye on the poor state of the sewerage disposal in the area, a situation they say is now putting them at risk of contracting waterborne diseases.
Majanga ambazo zinatukabidhi kila kuchao hapa ndani ya mtaa wetu ni majanga kama za magonjwa ambayo ni kama cholera, kuna pneumonia, napata pia kama malaria, na mara mingi zinasababishwa kwa sababu ya zile drainage ziko nazo zinateremsha maji.
In line with this year's theme of the World Health Day, which centers on building a fairer, healthier world, WHO is seeking a global collaborative effort to tackle the inequalities which deny the vulnerable people their right to health. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Aching Oma.
Gender activists have raised a red flag on raising cases of defilement and abortion of justice on the victims in the country. According to I Can Fly founder and director Gladwell Wambiru, despite the rescue efforts, some victims end up getting compromised to withdraw the cases, a move that has seen several cases flop and perpetrators walk free. And as Caroline Kamau reports, most of the perpetrators of the heinous act are persons unknown to the victim.
Lucy, not her real name, appears apprehensive as we settle in for the interview. The February 15th incident still fresh in her mind.
Baba yangu alikuwa ananibaka.
The 11-year-old has been camping at the rescue center for the last 1 month after her own father turned on her.
Mama naendaga kulala. So huyu mtu anadanganya eti ana watch TV. Alafu ananilazimisha tu mpaka nibake.
She later shared her ordeal with her mother in form of a letter.
Nilimwandikia on Tuesday night. So akapata hiyo barua on Wednesday. So sikukuja saa ya lunch. Nikirudi kwake sasa jioni, akaniuliza hizo vitu zote niliandika ni ukweli. Nikamwambia ni ukweli. So penye ilikuwa usiku, kumbe mama alimuuliza baba. Sasa sijui alimuuliza aje, but aliniambia alimuuliza. Baba kanuna.
In school the following day, she confided in one of her teachers who took her to Kamagambo police station to record a statement. The father was later arrested. Her predicament is shared by Liza, yet another victim of defilement. The 16-year-old Form 2 student at a secondary school in Machakos County was defiled by her stepfather. This ordeal, she says, has completely changed her perception on male relatives.
It so happened that one day he came home drunk and he found me in the house and he raped me. My mother, I don't know what she's thinking of because she's never made any attempt of finding the place I am or maybe knowing how I'm faring on.
These two are among 76 girls currently being hosted here at the I Can Fly Rescue Center in Nyamasare Village, Uriri Sub-County. The founder of the organization, Gladwell Wambiru, saying they have partnered with law enforcers to ensure these girls get justice. Currently, the organization has 16 active cases in court, but serving justice to the minors has been an uphill task as relatives opt to withdraw the cases.
Our main thing is to protect these girls from being harmed or to be, so that they are not harmed anymore. So having a rescue center means we have a safe haven for them whereby they can share with others their problems, they can be free, they can be away from those people who are hurting them. And once we win the case, we always try to get these girls back to their community.
Elsewhere, an 18-year-old boy was arraigned before an Embu court for defiling a 14-year-old girl. Joel Ikada pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of defilement and indecent act to the child. Chief Magistrate Maxwell Kishero released the accused on a bond of 200,000 shillings and a surety of a similar amount. The case will be mentioned on April 24th. Caroline Kamau reporting for Channel 1 News.
Moving on, today Rwanda begins the annual 100 days of national mourning in memory of more than 1 million people massacred in the infamous genocide of 1994. The genocide targeted members of the minority Tutsi community and moderate Hutus during the Rwanda Civil War, which started in 1994.
Also known as Kuibuka, meaning to remember. This day marks the beginning of the national mourning period that lasts until the Liberation Day.
On the 4th day of July, Liberation Day celebrates the day the Rwanda Patriotic Front brought to an end the 1994 genocide meted out on the members of Tutsi, the second largest ethnic group in Rwanda. The widespread slaughter of Rwandese ended after the Tutsi-backed and heavily armed Rwandan Patriotic Front, led by Paul Kagame, took control of the capital and the country. An estimated 2 million Rwandese, mostly Hutus, were displaced and became refugees, while up to 1 million, constituting an estimated 70% of the Tutsi population, were killed. In 2003, a United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution establishing the International Day of Reflection on the 1994 genocide in Rwanda.
On this most solemn of days, I wish to close by thanking Rwandans for remaining dedicated to the task of unity and reconciliation.
Well, that report brings us to our first break here on Channel 1 News Hour. Thank you for keeping us company so far. For now, we take a short break. Don't go too far. We'll be right back.
Siku nyingine njema tunapeana TV. My friend, leo tunakupatia TV mtazamaji. Ni rahisi zaidi. Enda kwenye mtandao quickbid.co.ke. Fuata maagizo. Kodi ya bidhaa yetu ni TV. Fuatanisha na unique bid. Kisha enda kwenye amount shilingi 20 pekee yake. Ama lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number 4032353. 4032353. Kisha enda kwenye account number, ekelea kodi ya bidhaa yetu ni TV92 TV46. Alafu amount ni shilingi 20 peke yake. Kumbuka kwenye QuickBid ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii ya jitume mwenyewe kwa simu yako, bonyeza *811*963#.
Unavyojikakamua kupata ufanisi, ndivyo utakavyofurahi baada ya kufanikiwa. Usisubiri kusukumwa na mtu, jitume mwenyewe.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii, bonyeza *811*963#. *811*963#. Next on.
Naomba kidogo. Basi hata huyo mama alisema hivyo. Alafu akamfanya hivi. Akamuuliza tena. Yaana baby. Ndio vipi unapiga macho hivi? Basi hata huyo mama yake hivyo. Wewe mtajibu wewe. Hebu chata na mjadi kuna wenyewe. Yasikia wewe. Huku kuna wenyewe. Saa 7 ni saa 5 mpaka saa 6. Umesikia? Nitapenda hizo.
Welcome back. Now let's proceed. 2 children aged 3 and 4 years have died after a house they were in was razed by an inferno at Gakoyo village in Murang'a County. Another inferno destroyed a property worth millions of shillings at Marcus Supermarket in Makutano Shopping Center in Meru Town. These and more highlights in the County News Roundup.
Grief engulfed Gakuyu village, Kegumo constituency in Murang'a County after fire razed down a house, killing 2 children. According to residents, the fire allegedly started after the children tried to light a gas cooker. that eventually exploded, killing one child on the spot, while the other succumbed to injuries en route to the hospital.
Wakati waliona hiyo moto waliungana, wakakuja kwa haraka, wakaanza kuzima moto. Ikawaje sababisho la moto ilikuwa ni gas, ni mtungi ya gas ndio ilikuwa imesababisha hiyo moto. Na we suspect ya kwamba, tunashuku ya kwamba hawa watoto walijaribu kuwasha gas. Alafu wakatorokea kwa bedroom ili wasichomeke. Lakini mahali walitorokea kwa mlango ndio gas ilikuwa. So wakati waliingia kwa bedroom hawangeweza kutoka kwa sababu gas ilikuwa ina.
In another development, property worth millions of shillings was destroyed after Maku supermarket in Makutano shopping center in Meru town was reduced to ashes by an inferno. According to Kennedy Muhindi, the proprietor of the supermarket, he received a phone call at midnight from his landlord informing him of the fire incident. The cause of the fire is yet to be established.
I found the fire brigade already putting out the fire in the shop. And on inquiring, I was told by the guard who was present then that it was about power, which is yet to be established or which is yet to be investigated. And I would say it is detrimental to the business, especially during this period of COVID, and it's devastating.
In Mombasa County, police are yet to identify the remains of a middle-aged man whose mutilated body was found floating at the Nyali Bridge on Wednesday morning. According to the locals, this is the second body to be recovered this year following several suicide attempts at the bridge. The body has been preserved at the Coast General Mortuary awaiting post-mortem and identification.
Minutes ndio mwili ukawa umefloat juu ya maji, umetoka pale katikati pale vile ikawa inakuja upande huu ambao tuko sisi. Ilipofika hapa karibu tukachungulia, tukaona ni mwanaume makamu, lakini alikuwa amekuliwa na samaki, ameelea juu ya maji. Hii sio mara ya kwanza ama mara ya pili, sababu ni wengi sana wanakuja hata mchana mwendo wa saa 7 hivi ama saa 6 ama saa 10. Mtu anaweza kuja hapa kigari lake hapa juu ajirushe ndani.
In Nairobi, police have launched investigations into an incident where an officer attached to the Interior Ministry allegedly shot his wife dead before turning the gun on himself. Police Constable Hudson Wakise was attached to the VIP protection of Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, while his wife, Police Constable Pauline Wakise, was a traffic officer attached to Kilimani Police Station. Wakise is alleged to have shot dead his wife before turning the gun on himself after a domestic altercation, an incident that has now prompted a probe. In Kakamega County, a family in Ingavera Village, Malava constituency, is seeking justice after the Akian's leg was amputated by unknown assailants. According to the family, the 25-year-old Keen was picked up by 3 unknown individuals who allegedly committed the heinous act as punishment to his father, who had allegedly not paid off his debts.
Hata tukamuuliza kama alikuwa ameenda na rival na mambo ya wenye vijana wanakuwa, akasema hapana, sina mambo kama hiyo. Nimetolewa nyumbani na mtu mwenye sijui na alikuwa amevaa kama face mask.
Finally, it was a free meet for all in Kirindara village in Igembe North sub-county of Meru County after KWS officials shot dead a rogue buffalo, leaving the residents fighting for the spoils. The buffalo, which is believed to have strayed from the Meru National Park, is said to have killed the cow before it was shot dead by the wardens. And on news making headlines in the business world, Kenya's private sector activity fell to the lowest in 9 months in March as cash flow issues limited customer spending, while hikes in fuel costs and shortages of materials pushed up prices, according to the latest survey. Now, the market Stanbic Bank Kenya Purchasing Managers Index fell for the second month running in March from 50.9 in February to 50.6. The 50.0 mark
track separates growth from contraction.
In January, the government reversed tax cuts put in place in April to cushion the economy from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, a move aimed at plugging revenue shortfalls. According to the survey, businesses highlighted cash flow problems linked to the COVID-19 pandemic that saw house limit spending to essential items, resulting in the slowest growth rate of sales last recorded in November 2020. Firms also recorded a dip in momentum from export orders, resulting in subdued output. However, the private sector employment improved moderately in March as firms shored up capacity to reduce backlogs of work, which fell for the first time since November last year. Despite efforts from some companies to build stocks in anticipation of future sales growth, input purchases were low. Businesses further noted that increase in local fuel prices led suppliers to raise their charges. The headline PMI fell for the second month running in March from 50.9 in February to 50.6. The latest reading pointed to a marginal improvement in the health of the private sector. Fixed income and currency strategist Kuria Kamau noted that demand growth was negatively affected by resurgence in COVID-19, which resulted in households conserving cash and prioritizing spending to essential items. Output prices continued to rise, driven by higher input prices, and employment levels increased to clear backlogs of work. Farms' outlook for output worsened on account of the resurgence of COVID-19, which is expected to affect demand. Readings above 50.0 signal an improvement in business conditions on the previous month, while readings below 50.0 show a deterioration. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Now, the Kenya tourism stakeholders will be showcasing their products and experiences virtually in this year's World Travel Market. Kenya will be represented by 5 companies drawn from the private sector, as well as the Kenya Tourism Board in the virtual exposition that runs from the 7th to 9th of April.
Unlike the previous years, this year's World Travel Market will be held virtually in adherence to the COVID-19 safety measures. Kenya will be represented by 5 companies drawn from the private sector, as well as the Kenya Tourism Board in the virtual exposition that takes place next week. The Travel Trade Exposition will provide an opportunity to market Kenya to the world and provide an avenue for networking and discussing issues that are currently affecting tourism and travel. According to Kenya Tourism Board Chairman Jimmy Kariuki, we are currently going through a global health crisis that has made it impossible to hold meetings and exhibitions, especially because of the physical nature of tourism and travel. But this also provides us with an opportunity to innovate and come up with solutions to benefit the industry. The virtual space provides us with this avenue. The WTM is an annual event that showcases Africa's tourism offerings. It is the leading B2B exhibition for the inbound and outbound African travel and tourism markets. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Now, the Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization is recommending the growth of the Brachyana grass to boost milk production. Speaking in Trans Nzoia, Karo Chief Scientist Dr. Mary Koech said the grass contained more proteins in comparison to other fodder grasses ideal for dairy animals.
Since January, local millers have been scaling down operations that have created a shortage of the byproducts for animal feed manufacturers, pushing up the price of other supplements such as maize germ, wheat bran and pollard. At the same time, the cost of imported items such as soya meal have gone up, compounding the situation. To remedy this, Calro is urging farmers to grow brachiaria grass for fodder. Speaking in Trans Nzoia, Calro Chief Scientist Dr. Mary Koech said brachiaria grass contained more proteins in comparison to other fodder grasses and is ideal for milk production. The wonder grass takes 4 to 5 months to mature and 6 to 8 weeks after the first harvest. Among the varieties being promoted by the organization include Basilisk, Xares, Flatter and MG4. Calro is promoting the fodder grass in 5 counties of Trans Nzoia, West Pokot, Elgeyo Marakwet, Turkana, and Uasin Gishu. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
In other news, tea farmers in Embu County have called for enhanced security ahead and during the election of new directors slated for Saturday 10th. This follows claims of plans to cause chaos during the exercise that has received mixed responses, with some factory directors against the new tea regulations fronted by CS of Agriculture, Peter Munya.
It's all systems go ahead for the controversial election to replace tea factory directors slated for the end of this week.
Tarehe 10 mwezi huu Jumamosi, wakulima wa Muungania watakuwa kule Kianjokoma Primary, wale wengine wa Kathangari watakuwa Kathangari Primary, na Warukori watakuwa pale Rukoriri Primary.
Farmers have, however, expressed concern over security amid claims of planned chaos by a section of players opposed to the move.
Seme natoa shukran kwa county commissioner wetu na OCPD wetu ambaye ametuhakikishia kwamba ulinzi utakuwa umewekwa.
The election of new tea factory directors is domiciled under the new tea regulations put in place to streamline the industry and curb the exploitation of tea farmers. Elsewhere, over 270 farmers groups across Embu County are set to benefit from a 100 million shillings project under the National Agricultural and Rural Inclusive Growth Project.
The most important sector of our economy is agriculture, and I'm happy it is well being utilized. On my part, and on the part of the chair of the Committee on Agriculture, we shall go chini to ensure our counterpart fund, which we are supposed to contribute as a county government, is in a budget.
The project is aimed at boosting the agribusiness value chain. And Kenya Power and Lighting Company has embarked on a disconnection exercise of all illegal connections in Kakamega County.
Tumeanza operation ya recover illegal lines na illegal connections so that we ensure that all the supply that is being used by our customers is metered.
The firm has so identified 10 households benefiting from illegal power connections. Going forward, those found culpable will be disconnected from power and forced to pay up the accrued bills and penalties. Finally, mobile service network provider Safaricom has appointed Sitoyo Lokopokoit as its M-Pesa Africa Managing Director, effective April 1st, 2021. Previously, Sitoyo had been the telco's Chief Financial Services Officer. Announcing the appointment, Safaricom Chief Executive Peter Ndegwa said Sitoyo will continue serving as Chief Financial Services Officer as the company works at filling the position.
In other news, according to the market Stanbic Bank Kenya Purchasing Managers Index survey, businesses highlighted cash flow problems linked to the COVID-19 pandemic that saw households limit spending to essential items, resulting in the slowest growth rate of sales recorded in November 2020. Details of these and other stories in the Business News Roundup.
Shell saw its refined oil product sales at 3.7 to 4.7 million barrels per day for the first quarter, compared with just under 4.8 million barrels per day in the last quarter of 2020. Shell's refining margin have improved to around $2.6 per barrel in the quarter from $1.6 in the previous quarter. Total upstream production was expected to rise to 2.4 to 2.48 million barrels of equivalent from 2.37 million in the fourth quarter of 2020. Meanwhile, Finland's Nokia has settled a multi-year patent fight with China's Lenovo Group, resolving all pending litigation across jurisdictions. Nokia launched its legal battle against Lenovo in 2019 over alleged infringement of 20 video compression technology patents and had cases in the United States, Brazil, and India, in addition to 6 cases in Germany. While terms of cross-license agreement remain confidential, Lenovo will make a net balancing payment to Nokia. Finally, Samsung Electronic Company Limited on Wednesday said the first quarter profit likely rose to 44%, with analysts attributing the surge to brisk sales of smartphones and TVs, albeit tempered by a likely fall in chip earnings after a storm halted U.S. output. Terry Njenga, Channel 1 Business.
next episode.
This is a very sure bet. I'm in Inara now at 7. I'm very sure I'll be in town by 7:30.
Just the comfort and the peace of mind you can read a book on the train.
Train iko sawa kabisa. Tumekwenda sana kabisa kwa sababu ni comfortable na bei ni rahisi sana kabisa.
Ya Allah, ya sayyid.